It's March 22nd, 2022. I'm sitting here, I'm watching CBS this morning. I'm in my cupcake socks. And I'm there's a piece on Google, and on this they have some civil rights law thing going on, and I'm like thinking to myself here, I'm like, I have no job, I have no, like, I don't even know the grooming. I mean, like, as a kid there was some grooming, ballroom dancing, etiquette, that kind of thing, but it didn't fruit, or there was no fruition out of it, like nothing ever came of it, as far as well versed. But so the grooming was there. It's just the actual acquisition of talent that has been totally deficient and defunct in the United States of America, as far as my appearance is concerned. And then I hear these people, like this company, Google, pops up out of nowhere because it didn't exist in the 1980s. I don't know if the 1990s, if it existed. At least it wasn't Urban Diction on Couch Potatoes or the street. And so now there's this big lawsuit about black civil rights, and this girl comes on and she's very candid that she's only hiring black people, she's only recruiting black people, she's going only to big black colleges and students and institutions to grow Google. And I'm thinking to myself, that's an interesting admission and deposition to make on See the BS this morning. I was like, because I don't even have access to that level of platform. But I see it flourishing with the not us inside of the us, being the USA. And I'm a little more than concerned. They mention words like microaggression, macroaggression. I'm like, I see you all being very micro and macroly aggressive throughout the USA, while I'm just struggling to stay genetically secure in not contracting biological diseases from misprogramming or misformation or deformation of society and in social engineering, with complete destruction and chaos in looming overhead. I mean, I'm watching them in all of their glory of brown and black, according to Crump or Grump or whatever his name is. He's some civil rights attorney. And I'm like, oh no, you portray yourselves just as aggressive as you are. And I still am sitting at 43, biologically harmed, wearing cupcake socks because I'm one step from homelessness. I have no 401k. I've had no career paycheck the entire time, while you're all up there filing lawsuits and complaining and having hissy fits like tantrums. That's what it seems like. Child tantrums. Just to get somebody to notice them. Preaching to the wrong choir.
A lawsuit accuses tech giant Google of racial bias against its black workers. April Curley, a former Google employee, claims in her lawsuit that the company steered black hires toward lower-paying jobs, using their knowledge while denying them chances to advance. She says that she was fired after she spoke out.
Did you have a platform? Did you have a paycheck? Did you have a job? So then I don't understand where the basis is. I had a low-paying job at Chase, but I wasn't given access to a platform like this. It was stand in the lobby on camera in our uniform and greet the guests. That was the extent. It had bank security, thank God. Thank God we were never held up. There were no guns involved. But it was like a meet and greet in a secured facility. It didn't pay well. But this has a very different capability and utilization that they've been using.
Lilia Luciano spoke to Curley about her experience working for Google.
It was my dream job.
That dream for April Curley, who joined Google in 2014, meant leading the change she wished to see in big tech.
My role was to engage with historically Black colleges and universities and recruit some of the brightest, most talented Black students.
And she
Oh, so you openly agree that you have discriminatory policies on hiring. That's good to know. Now I have the answer as to why I don't have a platform at Google and why I wasn't invited in for a paycheck and a society and community within the corporate sector.
And she did.
I brought over 500 talented qualified.
I have grooming. I have reputation in the professional industry and professional standards. I just don't have a platform that ever paid well or gave me inroads to get to where I needed to be.
Qualified students to Google to be hired.
But in a lawsuit she filed against Google, she claims she and those student recruits were pigeonholed into dead-end jobs, received lower pay, and were often dismissed as being not googly enough.
What were they saying?
It is a fit test, and it is to see if the wording normally is, would you grab a beer with that person? And it's a very unfair metric.
She claims in the suit that she and other Black employees endured micro and macro aggressions.
I was told that I was intimidating and that I was never tapped for leadership opportunities because my white managers said that they were afraid of me.
Curley says after she complained about her treatment, she was put on a performance review and ultimately lost her job. CBS legal analyst Riki Kleeman.
What should be most concerning to Google about what this case lays out?
The worst fact for Google on the face of the
Where's my access to money? Like, can I sue Google because they are actively in the process of only hiring even low-based Black people and brown people, but allowing them to have discriminatory hiring practices? Do I have a leg to stand on? Can I sue them so at least I can buy myself a house and perhaps get out of the genetic, closet I'm in that's being harmed daily? Do I ever get a chance at life? I'm just curious.
complaint is that they terminated her after she raised issues of racial discrimination. So it looks like it's retaliatory.
Civil rights attorney Ben Crump is representing Curley in the lawsuit.
Google has been referred to as one of the greatest disruptors in the past century. Well, it's not enough to disrupt technology if you don't also disrupt racism and discrimination.
Beyond the lawsuit, Reuters reported that California's Department of Fair Employment.
There's the typical stance of the not us inside the us, trying to rip the us apart. I mean, you need to have the us. The family part of the us in the USA, and the USA, is known. They have portraits, they have an image, they have solidarity. But what I don't understand is between me and you and the us, and knowing what the us A looks like, why are there so many disruptors trying to tear it all apart? Isn't that part of anarchy and disruption? Filing all these lawsuits, making all these big grandstands, these are problematic.
Housing last year launched its own investigation into the company's treatment of Black women. In response, Google said they would investigate any concerns to make sure our workplace is representative and equitable. In the wake of the social justice protests of 2020, Google launched a multi-million-dollar initiative to hire more Black workers. Google didn't respond to a request for comment, but it
The social engineering and communication project is off. We're not talking Black Heart anymore. We're not talking Black Hawk anymore. We're now talking about a much different population that has infiltrated a system that was socially engineered with a specific prowess, but now has been like redistributed and reassigned to a completely different sector of the population. I mean, how do you fix that level of oops?
But it told the Washington Post in the past it doesn't agree with Curley's description of her termination. The company's annual diversity report shows the number of Black employees hired went from 5.5% in 2020 to 8.8% last year. But Curley says representation isn't just about hiring, it's about retention.
And what does it do not having people of color in the room?
It violates their core value number one, to work with great people. Well, great people include Black and brown people.
For CBS Mornings, Lilia Luciano, San Francisco.
This is inside the USA. The partners and allies outside of the USA domestic, that might be the core value that he's speaking of. But inside USA, there's a whole lot of this argument going on, and it's breaking apart what used to be a very secure management system. And that's unacceptable. They're putting corporate values, migration, they're putting all this stuff in order to disrupt and break things. It's a really dangerous combination, and I'm feeling the effects. I haven't been able to get to one family level management position, or even to just be absorbed behind someone to say, no, that's my big brother. I just quietly work for the family and whatever quiet family members do. I don't have to be out front. I don't want to be known. You people scare me. I can't even get to that level, which I'm sure that there's a whole lot of people in that level. I get left out on the street like a tomcat or a stray cat. It's horrible. And now I'm like a homeless cat. I found shelter for the moment. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxy is broken. It's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.